There's a tension brewing in Milwaukee like never before. The Bucks are struggling, the defense is crumbling, and fans are starting to wonder, what went wrong? After a brutal 3-game stretch where victories have vanished and questions are piling up, the patience of Bucks Nation is running thin. The team that dominated the league, the one that brought glory and a Super Bowl, suddenly looks human, vulnerable, beatable. And the frustration isn't just with the players on the field. It's with the strategy, the decisions, the man calling the shots behind the scenes, Jason Licht. Now don't get me wrong, Bucks fans love Licht. He's a genius at the draft. His ability to spot talent, to build a roster from the ground up, is elite. The guy has an eye for talent like few in the game. And that's why, even now, he's not being completely vilified. He's still considered a top-tier GM, maybe top 5. But here's the thing, the cracks are starting to show. When you compare Licht's approach to other elite general managers, guys like Howie Roseman in Philadelphia or the Rams front office, you start to notice a difference. They're willing to take risks. Big, bold risks that can shake a team awake and change the trajectory of a season. Licht doesn't seem as comfortable taking that leap. He values developing his own picks, trusting his own players, and playing it safe. And right now, with the Bucks struggling, that philosophy feels like it's holding the team back. Look at the recent loss to the Rams, a team that is arguably the best in football right now. The Bucks didn't just lose. They didn't compete. They didn't even feel like they were in the same room as their opponents. Fans are asking hard questions. Why isn't Licht adjusting? Why aren't the moves coming fast enough? Why does it feel like the team is stagnating? Even comparing coaching eras brings its own complications. Bruce Arians built a team that won a Super Bowl. Todd Bowles? A different approach, a different philosophy. Some fans look back and wonder if things were better under Bruce. Maybe, but it's never that simple. The context has changed, the roster has changed, and the league has shifted. Here's a key point. Licht is not Howie Roseman. Matthew Witt pointed out something interesting. 2 brilliant GMs, but worlds apart in philosophy. Roseman trades aggressively, acquiring established stars to fill gaps. Licht trusts his own players, values his picks, and prefers to develop his talent from within. Both approaches work, but right now, Bucks fans are feeling the tension. They're watching a team that is talented, loaded with potential, and yet somehow faltering. They're asking, is it simply bad luck? Injuries? Or is Licht's cautious philosophy finally hitting its limits? Because one thing is clear, the drafting genius is still there, but the fear of risk is becoming a problem. And if the Bucks want to climb back into contention, that hesitation could cost them dearly. The Bucks are talented. They have stars, they have speed, they have big playability. And yet, something keeps holding them back. Mid-season trades never materialize. Opportunities slip through fingers. And that's where Jason Licht's brilliance meets his limitations. Yes, he's an incredible drafter. Baker Mayfield at QB, Emeka Egbuka on the outside, Tristan Wirfs anchoring the offensive line. These are clear hits. Licht builds from within, trusts his process, and it usually works. But in a league that rewards bold moves, trusting the draft alone isn't always enough. And right now, the ceiling feels low. The Bucks can win games, sure, but when it comes to facing elite opponents, they struggle. They don't yet have the gear to overpower the best teams in the playoffs, the kind of teams you must beat multiple times to even think about the Super Bowl. And that's a problem. Even Todd Bowles has voiced it. The defense needs pressure, it needs disruption, it needs to affect the passer. But without Rick on the field, the pass rush is faltering. Pressure rates have dropped from 34.4% to 26.9%, sack rates from 7.6% to 5.8%. Those numbers matter. And while Riek's return will help, Licht also has to think long-term. How do you upgrade an aging star? How do you build a defense that can carry a team through the playoffs? This is where Licht's philosophy gets questioned. He trusts his draft, develops his own players, and hesitates to pull the trigger on big trades. Meanwhile, other teams, look at the Rams, take risks that pay off in a massive way. They moved on from Cooper Kupp, acquired Devontae Adams, and it worked wonders. Licht, he crosses his fingers, hopes for the best, and relies on internal growth. It works often, but right now, it feels too safe, too cautious. And the frustration is building. Fans see a team loaded with talent, but limited by a conservative approach. They see potential squandered because the front office won't take the leaps other teams do. Drafting is vital, but risk, strategic, calculated risk, is what separates a great GM from a legendary one. Jason Licht is a great GM, no doubt. But when the playoffs loom, when the Super Bowl window demands boldness, the lack of aggression is glaring. The Bucs can still win games, but the question is, do they have what it takes to go all the way, or is caution going to hold them back? For all the talent on the roster, there's a creeping sense of déjà vu surrounding the Bucs this season. Another NFC South title? Sure, that would feel good, especially after years without one. But is that really the ceiling? Many fans are starting to feel like it is. There was a time when this season promised something special, a real chance to break through, to compete at the highest level. But the reality is hitting hard. The Lions, Patriots, Bills, and Rams have all exposed a glaring truth. This Bucs team isn't quite elite yet. It's a bitter pill to swallow, but the narrative is starting to look familiar. Dominate a weaker division, sneak into the playoffs, and then bow out early. Under Todd Bowles, that seems all too likely. And it's not for lack of trying. On paper, the roster has talent. Baker Mayfield, Emeka Egbuka, Tristan Wirfs, they're all pieces of a potential powerhouse. But the glaring weakness on the edge, the lack of a true elite pass rusher, keeps the ceiling stubbornly low. Fans have noticed. Season after season, questions linger about whether Jason Licht's reluctance to make aggressive moves in free agency or via trade is costing the team. You can draft perfectly for a while, yes, but at some point, drafting alone isn't enough. You need to supplement with established talent. Max Crosby, Hendrickson, or even more affordable options, someone to immediately elevate the defense. Yet Licht's philosophy, trusting the draft above all, seems to block these opportunities. The pass rush has become a symbolic frustration. David Walker shows promise, but his injury threatens to derail his development. Yaya is solid, dependable, but not the elite weapon needed to terrorize quarterbacks on primetime nights. And every time the Bucs step onto the field against a top-tier offense, the weaknesses are exposed. They get outcoached, outmuscled, out-schemed. The defense simply can't rise to the occasion consistently. Even the offense hasn't been immune to disappointment. Baker Mayfield's injury has highlighted the thin margin between good and great. The difference often comes down to risk, knowing when to swing for the fences, to make bold moves, to push the limits. Look at other teams like the Bengals. They've mismanaged brilliantly talented quarterbacks, and while the Bucs aren't the Bengals, the lesson is clear: managing talent, taking calculated risks, and addressing weaknesses aggressively is what separates playoff teams from Super Bowl contenders. The Bucs are talented, yes, but without bold decisions, without filling critical gaps, this season may start to feel like another chapter in the same story, promising flashes of brilliance, but ultimately limited by hesitation and an unwillingness to gamble when it counts. Talent alone isn't enough in the NFL. You can have all pros, Pro Bowlers, and future Hall of Famers, but if the people building the team refuse to take risks, you're never going to reach the next level. And right now, That's the frustration simmering in Tampa. The Bucks have talent, they have potential, but when it comes to bold moves, to aggressive plays in the front office, the hesitation is deafening. Jason Licht is brilliant in many ways. His drafting record is exceptional, his eye for talent undeniable. But brilliance without calculated risk is like having a Ferrari and never driving it above 30 miles per hour. The team has gaps, linebacking, edge rush, defensive depth, that could have been addressed without mortgaging the future. And yet, time and again, the front office has chosen patience over action. This isn't a call for Licht to lose his job. He's earned his place. But it is a call for accountability. Fans, analysts, and even insiders are starting to ask, when will the team take the next step? When will the front office acknowledge the gaps that hold this team back from being truly elite? The pieces are here, but the urgency is missing. Look at what other teams are doing. The Eagles added a single piece, Phillips, and he's immediately impacting games. That's the kind of decisive action that separates good teams from championship contenders. The Bucks? They've watched opportunities pass, seemingly waiting for perfection from the draft rather than creating perfection through smart, timely moves. The frustration isn't just in the boardroom, it's on the field. Wins against the Niners, Seahawks, and Texans felt promising, but the losses against elite teams have piled up. The losing streak has stretched for weeks, leaving fans restless, questioning, and hungry for answers. And now, with the Cardinals looming, every game feels like a crossroads. Continue the streak of mediocrity, or break through with the boldness this roster deserves. So here's the question for fans. What's the move that could finally ignite this team? A trade? A free agent signing? A calculated gamble? The trade deadline has passed, but the conversation doesn't end there. The draft, the strategic hires, the small but impactful adjustments, all of it matters. The Bucks are at a tipping point, and the choices made now will define whether this team settles for a pattern of near misses or finally seizes its chance at greatness.